Next we have ions. What are ions? So ions are atoms that have either gained an electron or have lost an electron. Electrons are the only particles that can be gained or lost because they are very light particles, as you can see from the mass. So these are very light particles, and it's 1,836 times lighter than the proton or the neutron, which means that's why it can easily be gained or lost. So an ion is a charged particle formed when an atom gains or loses electrons. What is an anion? Anion, N, so anion, and negative. Cation, so cation, so positive. Right, so negative means that it has an excess of negative charge. So what is bringing that excess of negative charge is the presence of more electrons. So if you add in more electrons, because electrons are negative, so electrons are negative, right? So you bring in more electrons, so it makes the atom become more negative. And a cation is positively charged, which means that it has an excess of protons. So protons are positive, so cation has an excess of protons. So how did it gain an excess of protons? It hasn't gained protons. You cannot gain protons because protons are too heavy and they have to get inside the nucleus, which is going to be very difficult. There's a long way to go to travel by the protons. So it's easier to lose electrons, right? So what happens is that we have loss of electrons. When we have loss of electrons, means that we're going to have less electrons and more protons, right? Now we'll represent ions by the convention where you have the bigger number on top, the smaller number at the bottom, and then the charge which is going to be superscript, right? And we're always going to write a number followed by the charge. So for example, if it's 2 plus, we'll write so Mg 2 plus, you have S2 minus. So we're always going to have the number and then followed by the charge. If the charge is 1, then you don't write the number. So it's just Na plus, for example, or F minus, right? So here, massive mistake again here. So it's Br minus, bigger number on top, smaller number at the bottom. So name of the ion here, so this is bromide ion, right? And this is an anion. Number of electrons, you have, normally you should have 35 protons and 35 electrons, but you have an excess of negative charge because of the negative charge here. So number of electrons is 36. Number of neutrons would be 81 minus 35. Here you go. I'll leave you to do these questions. Now, atoms of the same element always have the same number of protons but may have different number of neutrons. How do we call these? Same number of protons but different number of neutrons. These are called isotopes. Right? So isotopes are atoms of the same element having same number of protons but different number of neutrons. Now, when we mention about isotopes, let's say we're talking about chlorine. So chlorine has 2 isotopes, and we'll say that the isotopes are chlorine 35 and chlorine 37. These are the 2 isotopes. That's how we're going to write them. Now, what does this number mean? This is the mass number. which means that for you to be able to write chlorine like this isotope in the correct convention, you'll have to use the periodic table. You look for the atomic number of chlorine. So atomic number of chlorine is 17. We have the mass number 35, so now we can write the convention. So Cl, big number on top, small number at the bottom. So this is one isotope of chlorine, and then you have another isotope of chlorine, right? So now you can write the three isotopes of technetium according to the nuclide symbol convention. So these are the three isotopes. Look for the atomic number in the periodic table, and then you write the symbols.